Cyprus.
Minnesota.
Teachers from Denmark.
Woohoo.
Tiffany from the US.
South Africa.
Tammy from Indiana.
Fran from Toronto, Canada.
Well, that's all over for sure. From
Yeah.
Mai from Mexico.
Oh, in Mexico. Fun. Okay, well, let's get started here. I am going to mute everybody. So we can keep the sound nice, and when people log in, we don't hear that. So let's get started. So hello, everybody, and happy Saturday to you here right before Easter. You know, here a couple weeks ago, we had the official first day of spring. But here in Minnesota, we have not felt it that much. It has been cold and chilly, a lot of ice, freezing weather, and yet today the sun is out and we're supposed to have 60-degree Fahrenheit today. So it feels like spring. And that's a perfect time to be talking about spring cleaning. Talking about spring cleaning here with our houses. We're actually talking about the spring cleaning of our body. And, you know, in Zinogene, we have such a passion and such a mission to be empowering people with their health. And this is, besides our health protocol, which we are passionate about, which we'll maybe talk a little bit about, we do have a product called Zinogene. And it is something that's actually, the more you hear about it, the more you're like, this is really interesting and really important. And the guy who's going to talk about it today, I'm so honored every time he agrees to join in from the UK. He's on our scientific advisory board, and he has just been such an asset for Zinogene, not only because he's done things like trained with Olympiads, but he also is a scientist. So he has that down-to-earth way of saying things with a fun accent, but his knowledge is just incredible. And everybody in Zinogene, we just absolutely love when he's on. So we're going to talk about spring cleaning today in your body with Zinogene. So welcome to the call to Dr. Colin Robertson. Hi, Colin.
Hello, Carla. Thank you for having me back again. It doesn't seem that long ago since I was last here, but then when I think about it, it's probably January, wasn't it? So I guess it is a little bit of time. Yeah, thank you for having me back.
Well, you know, every time you're on, there's always so much knowledge, and we're all, you know, just busy taking so many notes, and yet you just are glued to the screen because it's so interesting what you're saying that you can't follow along. So that's why I record this, and that's why we're streaming live. So whether you're on streaming or getting on the recording, grab your pen now, because I know you're going to want to do that. So we love having you on, Colin. And it's also because you have such a simple way of just explaining this. And yes, we love our health protocol. I know you have talked about that on previous calls, how important absolutely everybody should be on the health protocol, and how important it is for everybody's body. But let's start with this spring cleaning. Let's start with Zinogene.
Well, first of all, I'm glad we're talking about spring cleaning in the context of biology and physiology, because in the context of cleaning your house, I'm decidedly unqualified to comment. I live in the midst of chaos like most academics do, and that suits me fine. But yeah, it's the approach, the mindset. And actually spring here in the UK, and I've just got back from Rome, so I know they've got similar. It really is waking up. The world is waking up again, and we're seeing longer days, and we're seeing more sunshine. And I've just been out for a bike ride with a friend of mine, and it's so joyous to see flowers in bloom, and to see the green back on the trees, and to see those textures and that different light. And there's a reason why I'm describing all of this, is because spring, and this there's no more timely time to discuss this than this weekend. Spring is all about that rebirth, that regrowth, that notion of things becoming new again. And so when we think of a biological spring clean, when we think of that notion of things becoming new, first of all, we have to take a backward step and recognize that your body is replenishing and repairing itself by the minute, by the second, on a daily basis. It's constantly going through its renewal process. And when we nurture that with the right ingredients, literally, when we give it the right type of food, when we give it the right water in sufficient amounts, when we give it the right amount of exposure to the sun, because we've evolved from and a part of this planet, we respond in every bit the same way as the nature around us. And so what we see outside should be reflecting of what we express from the inside. And the problem we have is that 21st century living, certainly 21st century diet and 21st century lifestyle behaviors, limit that, prohibit that. It's like keeping a plant in the dark. It's like keeping your favorite flowers in a dark cupboard and not watering it and not giving it the essential nutrients and exposure to light that it needs. And so we need to open the door. We need to let the light in. We need to provide it with those nutrients in order for it to bloom and blossom and be glorious once again. And we can do that. And that's where Zinogene, which really is a powerful component, comes into its own. And there couldn't be anything that's any more 21st century supplement tech than Zinogene, because it acts and functions in two key ways. And I know this has become a monologue, but bear with me for a moment, because I'll carry on as to what those two key ways are. First of all, that cellular turnover that is happening each and every day. Well, as we age, a part of the natural aging process is that slows down. So it's just an inherent part of what it is to be human. And what we can do is we can accumulate a lot of what we call senescent cells. And senescent cells are cells that are past their usefulness. They no longer function, but they are just taking up space. They're not moving on. And then what we get is essentially, which is why the spring clean language comes into its own, we kind of clutter up that biological space. And what can happen in that instance is we can start to slow down physiological, biological processes, because we have a lot of these senescent cells. These senescent cells are dysfunctional or lack any kind of function. And simply by being present, they slow matters down. And we never want to slow the rate, the natural rate of biological processes. And so what we want to do is gently give them a nudge, move them on out the system, enable the body to identify them and get rid of them and free up that space. And you all know what it's like at home. You know, you put these tasks off. If I showed you around me now, I'm just surrounded by books and I need to sort all this out. And when I do, I'll feel so much better. The prospect of doing it is way worse than the reality. And when I do, and I free all this up and I declutter, the space will feel better. I'll have more clarity and there'll be greater organization on where things are and what I need them to do. And this is the same biologically. The second part, particularly with Zinogene and the synergistic compound contained inside, is it actually prompts our own stem cell activity. And prompting the natural production and upregulation of stem cell activity is really where 21st century food technology is about, because that takes us all the way back to when we literally did hunter, gather, and forage. And we took nutrients from the ground around us, and we were able to tap into nutrient-rich, nutrient-dense sources of mixed types of antioxidants and all these things that would actually enable the body to function at an optimal rate. So two things. We clear out those senescent cells, those cells that are past their shelf life, and we prompt the body to produce and upregulate the activity of stem cells. And stem cells will replicate the type of cell that is required, and in order cells around the body to have greater support and greater functionality by having more of those cells in abundance. And so all contained within those capsules is this wonderful little formulation that enables those things to happen. It's powerful. It's a powerful little product.
So, you talked about getting them out of your cells to make room for the other ones. It's almost like life. I mean, I'm not much into plants, but I do know one of my favorite things to put out on the decks are fuchsias and petunias. And either way, whenever they're blooming, when some of them die, you pluck all those off because it gives more life to the other blossoms and it makes it better for that plant. And that's kind of how I think about it. We've got all these cells, and as we get older, they're not getting out of here. You got to pluck them out of here so that the rest of the cells flourish more. I don't know. Is that kind of the right way of thinking?
That's a great analogy. And that's a really good way of thinking about it. Now, anybody who's on here who is a biochemist or a cellular physiologist is probably thinking, whoa, you're making this too simple. There is so much that you're not delving into and considering. But that's my job, is to make it simple, because we just need to be really confident about the key actives and the key outcomes. And when we consider it that way you've just described, which is a really good way of considering it, is that trimmer notion, and then that enables a second or a third or a fourth round of flourishing. What we have in the body are things that provide what we regard as limiting steps, and they start to slow down processes. And actually, as we age, a part of the aging sequence is the slowing down. So we have a gradual slowdown of cellular proliferation, cellular turnover. And so when there is this accumulation of senescent cells that are no longer functioning on our behalf, well, this creates a unnecessary slowing down of those biological processes. And some people refer to these, if you ever look in the scientific literature, if you go and have a look at some of the articles online, these often get referred to as zombie cells, which is a very provocative term. This idea that you have dead cells that are lurking about and in themselves could be hazardous. And they're not actively hazardous. They're not going to try and eat your brain, but by being present, they slow things down and they take up space, and they can overwhelm a structure. Because remember, every organ, every aspect of the body is made of cells. And if there's only so much space, and if too much of the space is taken up by something that no longer functions, then that in itself becomes a compromise to function. And there's an old saying in cellular physiology, and I often quote it, which is that cellular dysfunction leads to physical malfunction. And we teach this to our undergrads at university. We teach it as part of master's programs at university. So we're trying to prevent any type of cellular dysfunction, and senescent cells are dysfunctional cells. And so we want to clear them out, because by clearing them out, we allow the body to function and turn over those new cells at its normal rate.
Okay, so Dr. Colin, you just called them zombie cells.
Yeah.
So I think everyone, because senescent cells almost sound like, okay, but if you have something going around in me that's a zombie cell, I'm going to want to get it out no matter what. Okay, so you've got these cells that die, and as time goes on, we get older, and they don't come out, and they're slower. They don't come out. They don't come out of your body at certain age. Is it that they stop functioning? You're saying that they're slowing down and they're not working the way they should for us. So
there are key points in the aging process, and as the normal life cycle goes by, there are certain processes, and women will be familiar with this. Just to use an obvious example, if we look at menopause, there are certain rhythms that are and oscillations, cycles that influence and are influenced by how we age. And one of those, typically for most humans, once we start to reach the age of 50, 55, 60, then there is a more measurable change in the rate of turnover of certain cellular function. And so this is where we start to notice and experience and feel more of this backup of that senescent cells. If our diet isn't sufficient in things like phycodones and curcumin and these kind of things, and piperine, and rich in our diet to clear these things out. Powerful antioxidants. And so they also protect, they protect DNA, and they are antioxidants in themselves. And so the whole purpose of Zinogene is to put those things back in and enable the body to do what it should do well, which is get rid of these. And I can see Art comments, and he loves the term, these zombie cells, and get rid of them, clear the space so that the healthy cells, the living cells, can function as normal and do what they need to do. Because the reality is that we are unique as a species, in as much that once we get past our reproduction functional phase, we have an extended lifespan, which is really, really different, because actually in nature, that's very, very rare. And the reason being is that we've evolved with regards to that aging population is really, really useful in a tribal and a community sense, because they help to nurture the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. They are providers of food, of care, of support. They pass on wisdom, skills, understanding. And this is unique to us. And so we know that actually how we've emerged is we used to be really active and functional right the way through to ripe old age. But we live a very different life. We're far more sedentary. Our diet's been corrupted. And so let's just call it what it is. It's been corrupted. And so we have a number of things that now that prevent what was previously the normal function and the normal system, the normal biological process. So we have to regain that ground. We have to claw that back. We have to be proactive. And so we know that when we introduce something, and it is such a synergistic formula, and what I mean by that is when you look at those ingredients on their own, they are actives, they are functional. When you put them together in the way that we have, those specific ratios, then the net outcome is far more than the component parts. And that's why we encourage people to use it quite strategically. We give guidelines on, how you should use it at different ages, because what it's going to enable you to do is live the life you should have, which is to be active, functional, contributing, experience life to its full and enjoying life, because the system is still intact and still able to do so much. So we need to get rid of those senescent cells, and we need to allow normal, which is phenomenal, cellular activity to flourish.
Now you're speaking my language when you're talking about menopause and being productive grandparents and stuff like that, because that's exactly where I'm at. And that's why it's really important for me and to help a lot of others to explain to them what this really does. So you said you've put together these ingredients that's getting it out of your body in a way that it wouldn't happen naturally. So what is it that is it doing, and what do we need to do to get rid of that?
Well, because I'm such a stickler for words, it's not about that we wouldn't do it naturally. It's about making us do it naturally. The problem we have now is what's become common, what's become normalized isn't natural. We want to get people back to natural. And so what we've got in there is we have these powerful actives. We've got the curcumin, and we've got the fucoidones in there, and we've got powerful amounts of vitamin C, and these are antioxidants, and they are DNA protecting, and they are stimulating upregulation of stem cell production. And where our diets, as they were some time ago, far more diverse and able to really draw from the land and from the food sources around us, these rich sources, then this is how humans would live at their best. Now, remember, everyone, not all over the world, given the trajectory of human development, has everyone been able to live optimally. That's just not been the case. But we now understand that. Let's get real and let's get in the future. We now understand that. So we can enable people all around the world to live well, of better nutrition. We can equalize that. And so by having immediate access to these sources, these ingredients, we can help to clear the system out, because we should be really, oh my Lord, when we get to 50, 55, 60 plus, we should be in the heyday of our life. we should be at our most productive. We've learned so much. We can do so much. We're so skilled and practiced at life. We should be able to give so much back. And what we see around is the opposite. We see people who are just getting, gosh, someone said to me the other day, and it resonated with me. He said, the tragedy of modern life is that some people die at 50, but they don't bury them till they're 80. It's true. Do you know what I mean? It's they just stop living. And that's what it's all about, is correcting that. And that's why it is active at gene level. I'm going to take this opportunity. And I know there are a few friends on here from Mexico. I'm going to say this again in a couple of weeks' time. I'm going to simplify this as best I can. The gene is like a library, and it's full of information with regards to how the body should function. And cells, part of the role of the cell is to read the information from the library and then act that out. Whether it's a cell of the heart or a cell of the lungs or a cell of the liver, the kidneys, reads that information and then functions accordingly. And so what we want are cells who are really good readers, who are active, who are engaging, who are contributing towards function. They're reading information, making things how we want them to be. Food is epigenetic. Epi as in upon the gene, which means it changes and alters the gene expression. When we eat the right foods, we write better chapters in the books. We write better endings in the library. And these cells, these active readers, the ones we want who can read, they take all that new information and they function in a different way. So with Zinogene, we're getting rid of all the people that can't read books anymore, getting rid of them. And all those people who can't read books, they can't actually help the heart, the lungs, the liver, the pancreas to do what they need to do either. So let's get them gone. They are surplus to requirements. We don't need them anymore. And imagine, I've never explained it this way, and I need to be careful. Imagine you were waiting to get into the library to read the book, but in front of you is 100 people waiting to get in the library, and you know none of them can even read, but they're going to get in before you and have a chance to pick up books and put them back in the wrong place and read. That's what your senescent cells are. They're dysfunctional. They've no idea what to do. So they're slowing down the rate at which you can do what you need to do. That's way too simplistic, but essentially there's a lot of truth in that description. And so, and I've just seen a question pop up in the box, which I'll address now, which regards to this, once a year, twice a year. Actually, we call it a spring clean, but for me, I turned 50 last year. I do a spring clean twice a year, personally, and I take a maintenance, which is one a day in between. That's what I do. And
Okay,
what
so
I do is
let's
relevant.
define that. You're saying the spring cleaning. So those who are sold now on getting rid of these zombie cells, they are saying, okay, what do we need to do? So the spring cleaning is a 2-week period of 4 Zinogenes a day. So we take 4 of these every day for 2 weeks. And that would be the full spring cleaning. Now you mentioned something in regards to stem cell too. So not just getting rid of the zombie cells, but it's helping on the stem cell production also?
Yeah. So what it does, stem cells are incredible. And that's why a lot of the future of medicine is focused on really clever use of stem cell activity, because a stem cell, it can replicate other types of cells. And so where there is either a dysfunctional area or where there is just a lack of activity, you can introduce a stem cell to that site and it'll realize where it is and what it needs to do, and it'll behave as it's required to. And so this is a phenomenal prospect and gives great hope for the future of medicine, in my opinion. I think it's incredible what's being achieved in that area. But we also know that, again, looking at those epigenetic components, the diet is so rich in things that support and are proactive in the context of our natural stem cell release. The body knows, the body will recognize there is a issue, a problem, a deficiency. And actually, by having a sufficient amount of the actives, we can upregulate our own stem cell production. And then we unleash those stem cells, which can then go and function as required. and drive a certain part of either repair, or it can drive a part of better function. You know, the future of stem cell is incredible, but what we know right now is that there are actives in food, all of which are contained within the formulation of Zinogene, that directly prompt, stimulate, and upregulate stem cell production and activity. And so stem cells are active, they're dynamic, they're creative, they're diverse, the exact opposite of a senescent cell, which is spent. And so we've got a formulation that is really helping us to clear out those senescent cells, at the same time prompting the body to produce new stem cells to help the body to address areas that might be under greater load or burden, at the same time clearing things out the way just to enable that normal cellular turnover, which is who and what we are every single morning we wake up.
So somebody's asking about what age should we start spring cleaning? Because you said it takes time before you start getting these zombie cells. When is the right age to start?
It's a good question. And I think I've given 10 different answers to this. So maybe this will be my 11th different answer. I think, you know, you've got to start to look at where you're starting from, first of all. I think that's a key determinant. For me, I'd say the minimum age, depending on how your lifestyle has been and where you've got to for now, I would say the minimum age of looking at the spring clean notion, 45 minimum. And that's going to be a case of somebody who's maybe had some kind of compromise to their health, maybe hasn't been that active, maybe their quality of diet's not been good over the course of their life, all of which will have had an impact on their overall health status. So maybe that might be where you go, okay, this is where I'll begin. I think for the majority of people, it's going to be 50, 55 is going to be where they're going to start their spring clean. However, you know, you should never wait. There's never a point that you go, oh, when I get to that point, I'm going to really start to think of the quality of my nutrition. And I think that the 1 a day strategy, which is just to introduce those powerful antioxidants to the 1 a day, really from age 20, 21. Because at that point, we reach full maturation. And so even though the rate of turnover is tiny, because we've only just finished the aging process. We've only just finished the growth process, and we're commencing the aging process. To me, that's the point. Just take 1 a day. You know, it's kind of, I find people's ideas around food fascinating. And, you know, sometimes people go, well, you know, I don't do much exercise, so I don't worry about protein. You're like, you're made of protein. Of course you need to have protein. Why would you assume just because you're not doing a lot of exercise, you don't need protein? That's what your muscles are made of. You know, your skin, your hair. So of course you should have protein. And so when you look at your cellular turnover, and cells are who and what you are, anything to me that contributes positively to a healthy, active cellular environment is like, well, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to make a start. And so I would advocate 1 a day really commences from the age 21, 22. And then the spring clean, earliest 45. For most people, 50, 55. And if you're 60 and you're not doing it, and you must be living in the mountains and able to go and pick this food fresh from the trees every single day.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So this is something you do recommend, because I mean, I haven't been taking 1 a day. I didn't realize that, but if you're taking it, Dr. Colin, I think I'm going to take it too. I'm not in doubt about that. But but we have our health protocol that people have been taking. How does it, you know, Dr. Paul kind of says it's like a symphony with Zinzino. It all works together. It's made to work together. So our health protocol with getting into balance, getting our microbiome into balance, and getting the right vitamins and minerals just is optimizing your body. And it's like giving people their power back. I know we've talked about that empowering people in regards to their own health. And that's our mission, is really doing that. But so how is this like working together like that symphony with the health protocols? Because I know you said on the last call, it's the best thing out there. If people want optimal health, that health protocol is really making a difference.
And I stand by that. But I'm going to say two things, first of all, that contradict that. And by the way, life's full of contradictions, so that's okay. First of all, you don't have to do any of it. You don't have to do any of it. You really don't. All you got to make sure is that you are eating a diet that is full of vast variety of fruit and vegetables every single day. You need to probably source that through organic means. Make sure that it's organic food and not just an organically certified farm, because there's a huge difference between the two. You could be eating really fresh, wild, line-caught salmon, anchovies, mackerel, tuna every single day. You could be doing that. You could be going off and finding the highest grade of phytonutrient-rich extra virgin olive oil, and you could be drinking a teaspoon of that every single day. You could, you can do all of that. Of course you can. The problem is that is like nigh on impossible to achieve. But if you can, I'm on your side. Go and do that. Same, you don't need to exercise. Of course you don't need to exercise. You just got to make sure that you're really, really active every single day. You don't need to exercise. There's huge, unique benefits to exercising that make you even better than normal, but you don't have to do it. You know what I mean? But you've got to be really, really active. You need to make sure that you're covering around about 8 to 10 kilometers. In fact, probably 12, 14 kilometers, of kind of moderate to vigorous activity, break up your sitting down time. There's lots of things you can do. Back to the things that you can do instead of taking health protocol. Eliminate your sugar. Don't consume any processed food. Don't consume any confectionery. There's lots of things you can do. The fact is that for most people, that's just unrealistic and unachievable and actually can't even afford it. And so why I'm so passionate about the health protocol is because despite all of those challenges, you can do something really simple and get the same outcome. So you can take your balance shot and you're going to get all the essential omega-3s that you need for the day, for your cellular function, for your health in one go. Study after study. I've just bought a new book actually, which is looking at the impact of DHA on psychological response. All the new information that is emerging around the impact of those marine-based omega-3 is reaching consensus. Not only are they essential fats, but we eat way too few of them. And we've really got to start building strategies to make sure we have it every day. We can't do that through eating fish. Everyone in the world knows the anti-inflammatory impact, both within the gut and cellular, from that extra virgin olive oil, particularly if it's phytonutrient rich. Achieving a sufficient amount of dietary fiber in your diet every day is either taking xenobiotic as a scoop or eating copious amounts of dark, fresh, organic veg every single day, plus a selection of fruits. And then we get into the vitamins and the minerals. This occurs to me a lot because of what I do. I'll walk into a grocery store, walk into a supermarket, and I go, the problem here is not a lack of availability. It's a lack of insight. I can pick this up and I have no idea what the nutritional content or profile of this food is. No idea. I don't know whether it's the product of intensive agriculture, semi-intensive. I don't know whether it's been cleaned in chlorine. I have no idea. And so for me, because I know biochemically my body needs vitamins to communicate, I need to make sure there's a sufficient amount in. And so despite all of that, it can all be done a different way. You don't need to do this. This is the way to be really, really successful really easily. Guaranteed. When you look at your fundamental nutritional requirements, you just go health protocol. 3 steps. And then every other effort you make that day adds to that successful trajectory. And now, given the fact that we've discussed Zinogene and back to the orchestra or the symphony that Paul likes to discuss, again, these are, wow, imagine if 1,000 years ago, cultures and societies in different parts of the world were able to access those types of nutrition on a daily basis, and not just the rich and the affluent and the people who were living in more Eastern and Asian parts of the world. And imagine, I wonder what we'd be like as a species. they're the kind of things I wonder, because look at the rate of intellect, how it was, advanced in the age of enlightenment. And sadly now, correlating with poor diet, it's on a decline. But imagine if so many more people have been so cognitively creative, functional. Imagine if they've been so physically well. Imagine what the world would look like now. And that's what we do. We enable that. We enable the best of nutrition based on the best scientific evidence and understanding to create what Paul likes to call the symphony of supplements. And it's people can either argue the minute details. They're free to do that. I encourage their free will. Or you can get real about where we are in the world and the situation, and you can do something about it. And one of my favorite sayings is that when all is said and done, there's usually more said than done, and actions speak louder than words. So just take your balance on, take your xenobiotic, take your vitamins, and let the debate go on. And that's how you're effective, and that's how you're successful with your diet.
I love that. Okay, so I think we have, I'm so excited to have all of that together. Just every time you talk about it reinforces what we're doing in Zinzino, of really inspiring people to have that change in life and then giving them and empowering them with their health again. So one last question as we round this off for today. The future of Zinzino and what we're really doing for world health. I know that's something that's a passion for you. You've wanted to make that influence of what Zinzino is really doing with our scientific advisory board, together with corporate and what we're doing out in the field, all together having this mission of really helping so many people. What do you think of, or where do you see us in just 5 to 10 years? What would you like to see?
Well, I mean, there's two different parts to the mission, isn't it? And I'm really fortunate because my part of the mission is really singularly focused, and it's purely focused on how can we do health well and make it easy, because anyone can make something hard. Anyone can make something challenging. I see a lot of internet gurus and so-called influencers, and I see the videos and the reels and the what they broadcast, and so much of it is not only fake, but it's also unrealistic and it's unattainable. And the reality is it puts people off. It makes people switch off because they look at how far removed that prospect is. When you see this influencer who's, I don't know, living in the Caribbean and they're drinking their fresh coconut water out of a coconut whilst they're eating this perfectly sliced and diced, melon that morning. It's like, great. Do you know how the rest of the world lives? Do you know the reality of what we're trying to deal with? And so for me, I just like to cut through the noise, cut through the nonsense. I want to make health simple, because we are, as a species, believe it or not, we're designed for, we will take the easiest route. We really will. And that's a big part of how we conserve energy. It's an essential part of what we are. The reason why convenience has took advantage of people and led them down the route of poor health is because it resonates with our blueprint. And so what I want to achieve, and I know that Zinzino wants to achieve this, I want to make health so convenient, it's so easy to do, that so many more people are healthy because there's no challenge in doing it. We can do health really well. We don't need any more new research. We're not waiting for insight. We're not waiting for enlightenment. We know what makes for good health. And we certainly know what are essential requirements in the diet. And we also know that when we put those things in, when we add good nutrition, before we start to take things away, before I start to tell you to give up your chocolate biscuits or all these things, when I start to put good nutrition in, I actually start to reset the blueprint of your DNA and your genetics expression and how you feel and how you experience the world. And that success is a multiplier. And so we are locked on, really focused on, first of all, test-based nutrition. See if there's a problem. And if there is a problem, great, we've got to measure. Once we've got to measure, we can measure the improvement. It's really simple. I've been working as a scientist for forever. And we use that phrase, if you're not testing, you're guessing. You know, we measure everything. That's the cornerstone of science. We measure it, we remeasure it, and we see what's changed. And I want to enable everybody in the world to be their own in-house scientist. Measure yourself, see what it is that you need to change, and then we will give you the means to change it. And the best thing is we're so confident about what we do, is we teamed up with one of the best laboratories in the world to say, here you go, test this in the best scientific method possible, take our product, and we've no idea, everything's anonymous, we've no idea who you are, and if our products don't live up to the expectation, if they don't change things for you, but then you know they're no good. But the reason why we're approaching 1 million, rapidly approaching 1 million independently analyzed and verified samples, the reason why the amount of people who are switching to Zinogene is increasing, multiplying day in, day out, it's because they do work. I mean, we in an ocean of people trying to provide omega-3 supplements, we know that 97.8% of the people who take our product, from no matter where they start from, cellular ratio or index, get in ratio and in index in 120 days. Measure that through the blood, those red blood cells. And remember, blood's an organ, it's the essential organ, it's in contact with everything else. We are developing tests that so far are unparalleled. We're in the future space. We're trying to innovate things that matter, that are meaningful. We've enabled people to reliably measure their HbA1c. You know, my God, people, you're in America, 38% of your adults are pre-diabetic. That's the one you go and get for yourself. We need to fix that. And if we test and we know where we're at, then prevention is the cure. If you're pre-diabetic, we can 100% reverse that. You'll never need to take a drug for it in your life. So we're trying to make it easy. We're trying to make it rigorous, credible, intelligent, but above all else, easy. Simple to do. So simple, you go, well, why wouldn't you do it? When it's this easy, when it's this in your hands, why would you not want to live your best life when it's just so convenient and easy to do? And the last part I'd say to that, which ties into the really ambitious business goals that Doug and Orion have, and the reason why they're ambitious about the business is because they want the whole world to be better and to benefit from what they do. The fact is that when you get real about it, it's so cost effective. If you look at what it would cost in the modern world to achieve the levels required of these types of nutrients on a daily basis for yourself and for your family, what we offer, the premium grade of what we offer, how advanced it is nutritionally, it's so cheap. It's so economical and realistic. And I like, personally, because I'm from Irish Liverpool background, you know, I grew up on very, very, very real streets. I love it when those two come together, when we can all do right by doing well, and we can make it so that we reach everybody and not just the top 2%. You know, I've got nothing against those people up there, but my ambition is a world that's in better shape, that's in better health. And that's the other 98%.
I love this. You know, when you said cellular dysfunction leads to physical malfunction, and that's what we're doing. Because to me, my simplicity, not being a scientist or anything else, is just healthy cells, healthy body. So we want to get those cells healthy. That's just period. And I love the mission that you're saying we're doing, because it really is just making it simple for everybody, as easy as possible to have optimal health, and people deserve it. So
Absolute. That's the goal, always. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Colin, it is always such a pleasure to have you on these calls, and it's so inspiring. We just feel like we need to get out there and tell more people about what Zinzino is doing and really make that impact. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope everybody who has been listening to this is going to start getting their spring cleaning going and making sure I'm taking one for maintenance from now on. Whatever you do, Dr. Colin, I'm doing too. So Dr. Colin, a very happy Easter to you and to everybody who is calling in today. And I'm going to let everybody unmute and let's get this mission out to more people. Thank you, everybody, for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Colin.
Thank you,
Colin.
Dr. Colin.
Thank you, Dr.
Colin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, Dr. Colin.
Thanks, Miss Carla.
Have a
Happy,
great weekend.
happy
Have
Easter.
a good one.
Happy Easter to everyone.
And happy birthday, Deb.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Art. Thank you,
Happy
Carla.
birthday.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.